And one of the big storylines coming into the pay-per-view is the story of Will Ospreay, the international champion, taking on Swerve Strickland, the AEW World Champion. And this is the pay-per-view event before All In that takes place in Wembley, at Wembley Stadium, I should say, in the United Kingdom, London, that is. And Will Ospreay, hometown hero, will they pull the trigger and crown Will Ospreay as that champion? I don't think so. I don't think they will be doing that. Why? Because of what happened on this past episode of AEW Dynamite. You start the show with MJF, who I think by far is the best that AEW has to offer, not only in ring, but just his character. Every time I see he's advertised, it's must see. I have to keep up to date what Maxwell Jacob Friedman is doing. He's interrupted by Danny Garcia, and Danny Garcia, again, climbing the card slowly but surely. I'm looking forward to what they're able to do with him moving forward. But he offers him a match at All In. What about MJF versus Danny Garcia? And that has a lot of potential in it already, especially with the way they've been portraying MJF. He's riding that line between heel and babyface, very much a tweener, if you will. I think he still has those heelish qualities, but we can't help but cheer him just because of how entertaining he is. But in the middle of that offer of the match at All In, we are interrupted by the international champion, Will Ospreay, who just waltzes into the ring and praises Danny Garcia and tells him, when I win the world title, I'll give you a title match next week on Dynamite. But not only for the international championship, but for the world title winner take all. Already assuming he's going to defeat Swerve Strickland. And in the corner, you can see MJF just brushing it off, almost seething that he was interrupted by Will Ospreay. Who are you to interrupt me? And just walk right past and ignore that I literally just wanted a match with him being Danny Garcia. I think that's where it gets interesting. Swerve Strickland has already felt disrespected in this instance because he's saying in a segment afterward, you're already giving out title matches and you haven't even beaten me yet. Which is making a chip on the shoulder of Swerve Strickland just a little bit bigger. But now Will Ospreay has managed to make two enemies in one. Swerve Strickland now has a bigger chip on his shoulder. As I mentioned, he's going to want to defeat Will Ospreay decisively. However, the second enemy in this equation, if you will, is MJF, who is not shy about his heelish tendencies. I think MJF somehow or some way is going to interfere in this world title match. He will cost Will Ospreay the match itself, and I think we're going to lead to a match at All In. I do think we get on the road to All In, we get this Danny Garcia versus Will Ospreay, Danny Garcia versus MJF, but I think All In is where we're going to have Will Ospreay versus MJF. That's just my feeling. Obviously, I'm not the booker. Obviously, I'm not Tony Khan, but that's just the sense that I got coming out of that segment. And I look at the way Swerve Strickland's been portrayed, and I feel like there's still much more you can get out of Swerve Strickland as the world champion. You could still have many more matches, high quality stories. I still think there's something to be told with Hangman Adam Page as well, who hasn't returned yet. But seeing that these two had a great feud last year, and now elevating it with the world championship itself, I think that has an opportunity to elevate that as well. But regardless, that is something to look forward to. I think it'll be one of the more high profile stories of the summer, and I'm curious to see how the card for All In builds up and what will be the main stories. Obviously, we know that Swerve Strickland is going to defend that title. As of right now, we don't know because he hasn't beaten Will Ospreay at Forbidden Door just yet, but that's my prediction. How else is the card going to figure itself out? I'll go ahead and release my predictions for the Forbidden Door card in a later video, so keep an eye for that if you want to keep up to date with what my thought process is regarding the booking of All Elite Wrestling and the Forbidden Door story and Forbidden Door pay-per-view in itself. But it's actions like that. You can't be Will Ospreay and just interject yourself into a segment that you weren't even intended to be a part of and not expect consequence. I think that's what we're going to end up seeing. I think MJF, out of envy, out of spite, and just out of disrespect, is going to interfere and cost Will Ospreay the matchup. Will it turn MJF back into a heel? I don't know. I think both of those guys ride the fine line between heel and babyface. But I think in this story, Will Ospreay will probably be the babyface. MJF will be a heel just because he's better as a heel. Don't get me wrong. He's been great in the role that he's been in the last few months, rather the last year and a half, really. But he's just a much more natural heel, in my opinion.